Hey, what's up guys, this is Krishna here. Welcome to this exciting tutorial on how to achieve secondary fractures in Houdini. I will upload the project files on gumroad.com. If you feel generous, please support me by purchasing those files. I'd really appreciate it. Now without any further ado, let's jump right in. Alright, let's do this. I've just imported a statue model here, which is part of Video Copilot's Element 3D. But you can use any model you want, because for this one you got to purchase Element 3D. Okay, good. Let's move on. Let's first of all put in a match size, because I think this is too big. Let's justify to Y to minimum, and let's scale to fit. So you see that? There you go. So for reference purposes, I'm going to put in Tommy here. Tommy's considered 6 foot tall, so I assume, I don't know. But match size, you can see it's too small for my liking, so I'm just going to push this up one more. There you go. It's as big as Tommy right now. All right, good. The next thing I want to point out is that if I put in an exploded view here, you see there are two pieces to this already. We don't want that, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a Boolean union and connect both A and B to it. And now if I put in an exploded view, you no longer have that, okay? Now this completely depends on the RBD fracture, okay? Because that's what we're going to use. If RBD fracture throws errors, then we will maybe fracture them independently, okay? All right, let's put in RBD fracture, material fracture, okay, good. Now it's going to take a little bit of time. Well, okay, it's done it now. So, and if I bring this exploded view down here, okay, so this is what we got. It's not great, but that's okay. First thing I want to do is I want to get rid of this second fracture level. Okay, we don't want that at the moment. So we got that one. That's not very good. I'm gonna push it up to 16. Okay, that's kind of decent, I suppose. Please note that this model already has UVs, okay? So before you fracture, it's preferable that you get UVs, okay? This one has it. If not, you gotta do your UV unwrapping or texturing or whatever, okay? All right, good. So I've done that now. So this is, see, I've noticed this quite a few times now. The scattering of the points are not great when you are using sparse convolution noise, okay? So I'm going to change this to alligator noise, and it's kind of spread across the entire model evenly, which is what I want, okay? So that's good. Next thing is I'm going to put in another RBD fracture, material fracture, which is the same as the one above us, one before, sorry. Above us. Okay, and okay, good. So it's now fractured twice, okay? So as you can see here, all right, good. Also in here, let me just move this to a manual, and I want to get rid of the secondary fracture here, and I'm going to call this sub fracture, okay? Because it is sub fracture. And it's going to be, because I'm going to select, where is it? Fracture per piece. Okay, so that's what I'm going to select, because if you have whatever number of pieces here, it's going to go through those number of pieces and fracture them here. Okay, that's what that is. All right, good. And I'm also going to increase this to, I don't know, 16 for the moment. Okay, good. So let me put this to auto update. There you go. So Okay, this thing, I don't know why this is happening. Okay, so I've said fracture ratio is 1. Okay, it still doesn't fracture all of the pieces, which is, to be honest, annoying a little bit, but I don't know. So if it's 0, it's fine. I'm saying fracture everything, I suppose. I don't know. Okay, let's move on. If I put in an RBD bullet solver now, okay, so we can see it's there, so that's good. So let's move on to the first one, which is the ground. I want to add a ground plane, so it's right here. Okay, I'm gonna just press play. Okay, nothing is happening, and that's because if you look at the constraints, you've got a primary strength of 1000, and this one is also 1000. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I'm just gonna kill those to 1. Okay, let's see if that makes any difference. Yeah, so as you can see, okay, so it's just falling apart because it's just not strong enough. Okay, so that's fine. What I also want to do is, I don't want it to fall just like that. All right, today's example or today's setup is going to be based on exploding the RBD. So when it explodes, it breaks into several pieces, but when it hits the ground, it may or may not break into further pieces. Okay, that's the point of secondary fracture, I suppose. So let me put in a scatter node here. Okay, so I'm going to bring in this. So that's the scatter node, and I just want 1 point, and the global seed would be $F, which is based on the frame, so it goes like that. All right, I'm going to bring in a metaball force, or metaball, and then I'm going to copy 2 points, that metaball, so geometry to copy and targets point to copy. So you'll see, like, it's doing that. Okay, which is good. I'm going to reduce this one, another one. Here's that one. Okay, in the Z direction. Alright, fair enough. I thought this would be Y, but okay. Never mind. We have the metaball force. I'm just gonna bring in a null, and I'm gonna call out force. Okay. What I'm also gonna put in is the switch node here. Okay. So the idea behind this is that I want to say, well, $F greater than let's say 6 and $F less than 9. So when the frames are 7 and 8, it's going to activate this. Okay, so if I look at this now, oh, I know, so I'm going to put in a null here, so it's going to connect to that. So normally it will connect to nothing, and then on frame 7 and 8 it will have the metaball force. Okay, so 7, 8, there you go. Okay, good stuff. So now what I'm going to say is that, okay, I want to dive inside a bullet solver, and I'll say pop metaball force, and the soft geometry is going to be our out force here. Okay, so technically that should work, right? Let me put these primary strengths back to its default. Okay, now let's check it out. Okay, so nothing's actually happening, as you can see, but at 7, is it actually bringing in that? Yeah, you can see that it's coming in at frame number 7 and 8. Okay, so why is it not working? That's because it is expecting a force. Okay, so if I type in force here, there it is. It's looking for this, which is not so obvious, but you need to put that in. So I'm going to put in a 400. Okay, it's a radial force. I don't want directional force. Okay, good. Now I'm going to reset the simulation and hit it. There you go. So something's happening, which is good. Yeah. Now I'm going to go back and reduce the glue to, I don't know, 100 maybe. Yeah. Okay, so it's working. Alright, so that's fine. It's not great, but it's working. So I'm going to bring that down to 100. Actually, leave it at 100. Okay. No, let's put that back to 10,000. Okay, so it's not it's not happening for several reasons. Okay, so first let's put something in. Okay, and I want to show you this as well. I'm going to put in RVD configure. Okay, and I'm going to insert that right in between. I'm going to enable this active here and use bounds and bounding box. Okay, or bounding geometry is fine, I suppose. Let me put in a box here and connect that here. Okay, so that's our bounding box, and that kind of fits nicely, I suppose. Just push that out a little bit. Okay, so the idea behind this is that I'm going to set this to 0, by the way, because if I now look at visualize active, everything that is not within the bounds of this box is active. Anything below that is not, meaning it is going to stick to the ground and not move. Okay, so that's good. Let's now continue. Let's play this now. See, suddenly nothing is happening. The force is coming in. You'll see it now. There, the force is coming in, but nothing's happening, and that's not good because, well, it isn't doing anything, so it's not good, is it? Okay, so the reason behind that is because for a statue or anything for that matter, which is adhered to the ground or anything else, and if you want to break it using a force, you need to break the constraints. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. Going to constraints, breaking thresholds. Let's put in what we have, which is glue. Okay, so glue, and mode is delete constraints, and what we want is force. Okay, and let me leave it at 0 and let's see what happens. There, boom. Okay, it's like going crazy. Yeah, well, that's not good because, you know, obviously we don't want it to break at 0 because then there's no point. So let's put in a 1 here. There, that's a lot better. So it's doing something, which is good. Okay, so that's working, which is what we want. Okay, but I'm going to bring this down to 0.01, say. So it's got enough force. Okay, that's good. I just don't like how our fracture is at the moment. So I'm going to go back to primary fracture and change the scatter seed of the cell points to 1. You change the fracture seed here, it does nothing. I don't know why, but anyway. What happened there? I also forgot one more thing. In the second RBD material fracture, I left this at sparse convulsion. I want to change it to alligator noise. Okay, good. Yeah, that's a lot better. Okay, that's good. I'm also going to just double check where these things are coming in, because that doesn't look very good. So it's going in there and then there. That's not good, is it? So let's change the thing to +1 or whatever. I guess this is not bad, actually. So, okay, that's fine. All right, let's run it now. Yeah, okay, that looks decent enough. I'm just gonna quickly create a camera here. Okay. So we've got this, okay? So if you now look at this, it's just literally everything is breaking apart in the first explosion. That's not interesting at all, is it? I'd like this head to have more fracture, to be honest, but never mind. All right, so the idea is that to get secondary fracture, you leave your primary fracture as they are, okay? And constraints, just bring this back down to 1. I want to set it to 1 because I'm obviously breaking it with force, okay? So in here, all right? So it doesn't matter what you put in here. Well, it does, but 1 is pretty good. RBD material fracture 2, I'm going to set this to -1, which means it's never going to break, okay? Now let's check what's going on. That's the idea behind it. You pack the secondary fracture in such a way it's not going to break, and then you break them later, okay? At the moment, this is the same. It's not working, by the way, if you noticed, because this is also called glue, and this is also called glue. Okay, so that's why it's not working right now. So if I were to change this to glue 2, now I run this, I see something weird is going on because it's unable to break. Okay. What I do want to do is this: enable color. Okay. I want to enable green color for our primary fracture and red color for our secondary fracture. Okay. So we can kind of visualize where our secondary fracture is. Okay. Our subfracture is. So you can see subfracture is actually on the outside as well, which is not very good because, well, so if I press W, isn't it meant to be connecting within the piece? Yeah. So there's something odd going on here, right? So I'm definitely going to reduce this. No. So what if I say 0? Okay, all right, that's not proving a lot different at the moment, but that's okay. That's okay. So it's at least glue 2, I suppose. I'm gonna put this back to glue, okay? And in here, you have an option, okay? And here is the group. So let's select concrete fracture 1, which means if you have name glue, the constraint name is glue, and you're part of this fracture, then you break it at the force threshold of 0.01. Okay. Now let's see. Oh, that looks a lot sweeter. Okay, there you go. You see, that looks brilliant. Okay, so this, what does that tell you? That tells you that this is working. Okay, so if I change this to 0, primary strength on the subfracture, you can see that's happening. It's just disintegrating. So I'm going to put this to -1 again. There you go. That's good. So finally, what you got to do is, if you want to break the subfracture, you got to go for the next one, and you're going to say glue here too, and you want to select the subfracture. But this time you're going to say impact threshold is, let's say, 40 or whatever, and use a little bit of variance. Now let's see how that goes. So basically, when impact goes above 40, okay, so how do you check that out? It's because if you can check that out using here. So you can check the impact here, okay? So find out, hit play there. So some of them have a lot more impact, so you got a maximum number here. So you got a 42 there, which is good, but it's probably very little amount of breaks with that number, I suppose. You can actually clearly tell which ones haven't broken here. You can see these red constraints here, okay? And there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and reduce the threshold to 20. Let's see how that goes. Kill this visualize. Okay, good. Yeah, it's too weak. 20 is too weak. 40 is too much. You just got to play around with that. You got to find out the right number. Okay, so get rid of that. Okay. Can we actually see? So let me put in a normal here. So there's some normal problem going on. Probably not. I thought this was a problem with normal. I don't know. Oh, that's a lot better. Okay. It's the flat shaded. If it's smooth shaded, it does something weird. Okay, I just want to see if there's any secondary breaks here. Oh, yeah, you can see this one. So this one doesn't have it. Okay. By the way, you need to click here to see your constraints. Okay, so these parts do have our subfractures, okay, but they're not breaking at the moment. They're not breaking. Okay, there. I think it'll be interesting to see if that one breaks. Okay, this one. All right. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that one breaks. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at 40. Well, what I'm going to do is, by the way, you can use from frame as well, so after a certain frame it breaks, but I don't know, maybe you can't. Maybe if you want to. Okay, I'm not going to do that. Angle and distance threshold will come into play if you're using soft constraints. Okay, I don't know about these. I haven't used them, so maybe hard constraints, I guess. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and use expression, and if you click on this drop down, you have this option called break when connected pieces velocities diverge, meaning when the velocity of one piece to another diverges, then it'll start to break. Okay, so that's what this is. I'm not very good with vex, but basically this is, you bring the velocities of the adjacent pieces, find the adjacent pieces, bring their velocities, and then you have a threshold, and then above that threshold you break. Okay, now see these last three lines. it's normalized velocity, and it's just too weak for me anyway. So I'm gonna kill that by putting a double slash. Okay, and this threshold is what you need to adjust to get your desired result. Okay, so let's see if that has improved it. I don't understand this. This computer is brand new and it's getting stuck like that all the time, and I absolutely hate it. Okay, it's finally done it. Okay, let's run it now. Let's see what happens. Okay, that has not improved it. So I'm gonna bring this down to 1. Okay. There you go. You can see something's going on. That's good. So probably 1 is too low. So let's change it to 5. Okay. Probably 5 is too much. Yeah, you just gotta play around with this, I suppose. Yeah, there you go. So it breaks, hits the ground, and then it breaks. That's pretty cool, right? So obviously it depends on impact and stuff like that. All right. So you can also put in here in the RBD configure, you can put in speed limits. So it has a spin max and a speed max. So usually I put in like a 30 here for both speed and spin. Okay, so it doesn't go like crazy, whatever, you know. So next thing is that it's doing it again. Okay, it's come back alive now. So the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is this. So if I go into your RBD material fracture here, and I want to add detail to it, so let's just concentrate on that part there, because you know, when you add detail, it's a lot better, of course. And then the edge detail is good, but if you go overboard with it, it doesn't like it. All right, so let's move on to this one now, and you'll start to see some problems. Maybe sometimes you don't. This looks good to me, but if I now add detail in here, maybe, yeah, see, there you go, it's starting to come up. That demon is starting to show up, man. Okay, I'm gonna also add edge detail here. Okay, so this is not that bad, to be honest. It's actually okay, but you have no choice, I suppose. You know, you can work on your model, make sure it's nice and clean before you get it back into your fracturing. But generally what I do is if I find that problem starts here, I just change the scatter seed and try which one works best. Okay, and none of the scatter seed works, then you just gotta bring this noise height down so it doesn't affect that much, and also this one down. So yeah, this is primarily the issue here, but to compensate noise amplitude, I'm gonna have to bring this down so the detail is a lot more. Okay, so if I now look at this, so there's a lot more detail, but less, you know, noise, I suppose. Okay, good. So I just wanted to touch on that, that's all. So that looks good, and let's run this. Okay, so obviously it looks different now, okay, compared to what it was. So I'm just going to increase this force to, I don't know, did we actually work on that? This is actually okay, so that's good. So I've increased the force now, okay, and reset it. Okay, that's good. Okay, so I wanted to show you this because, by the way, this only happens when you have details. Okay, now I don't know why, but you watch this here. There's something's weird going on here. You can see with this piece here. This piece is doing something bizarre. It just doesn't look right. Okay. Yeah, it looks like it's spinning out of control for some reason. Its axis of spin or pivot is not in the right place or something like that. It just doesn't look right. Okay, that's because what's happening is that in the solver bullet object, you see this deforming? This is the culprit behind it. At least that's what I noticed. Okay, in the bullet object, remember that, because collisions have their own. In the bullet object, you need to remove deforming. Okay, so maybe not great if you have a deforming object coming in, but that doesn't seem like it has fixed the issue. Maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. I don't know. Okay, let me change this. Oh, by the way, it's also could be because of this. Okay, so the force is happening in both 7 and 8. Okay, so let's say I just say your force is equal to 8. Okay, so just act on frame number 8. Well, that's not very good. Okay, that means going up on this one. Okay, still not great, is it? That is also because you gotta go into advanced and you gotta give solver enough substeps for it to work. Okay, good, work well. I mean, okay, let's try now. There, it's going crazy. Okay, so let's bring that back down to 400. Okay, maybe 400 is a little too low, so how about 800 then? By the way, also that also depends on where the scatter is coming to apply. Okay, so for example, I'm going to put this radius back to 1. Okay, it's going to have a massive significant difference or impact to there. You see how it goes? I just don't like how it's just going in. I think that could be because of this here. I don't know. Is it imploding by any chance? I'm just changing the force scale to -1 here. Okay, so just want to see if it's imploding. Oh yeah, this is now exploding. I think it was imploding previously. That's a bad thing. So I'm just gonna bring this down to like 400. Oops, 400. Yeah, so -1 represents exploding. I think +1 represents imploding, which is kind of bizarre, but there you go. That's a lot better. Okay. Oh, the face just broke in half after it hit the ground. You watch this face here. There you go. That's what pretty much what we want. Okay, so if I now select that, so there you go, and there are some parts here too. Okay, so that's good. Alright, sub-steps definitely helped a lot. Okay, so they're the breaking thresholds and whatnot. So what I also want to do is not only this has 16 points and this has how many? That's 16. I think it should be okay. I think we're just going to work on low fraction numbers. Okay, so I'm going to reset it down. Okay, and force is fine. Everything looks good, except this time it's not breaking as much. Like, you know, these parts are not breaking as much. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the impact down to 35, okay, and the threshold down to 1. Okay, so let's see how that looks. Yeah, so you can see that it's breaking. Oh, it's breaking beautifully. I love it. Oh yes. Okay, good stuff. Right there. You see here. Okay, so it's going boom there. Particularly here, I think. There, look. So you can see it's breaking wonderfully. Okay, so that's what we wanted. That's what we got. Okay, so last thing but not least, let's make this fancy. Okay, so what I'm going to do is with the RBD material fracture, primary fracture, what I'm going to say is, I'll go to constraints. I'm going to say switch to soft constraint when broken. Okay, so what does that mean? That means it'll switch to soft constraint. That's basically it. Soft constraints are for soft bodies. Okay, so if you switch it to soft constraint, what'll happen is that it will just hang around. Basically, if I now play this, the initial impact will break it. So let's say, for example, now I say the impact, the force threshold for you to break is 10,000. That's not really going to do anything, I suppose. Yeah, it's not going to break it at all. That's a bit silly. Okay, let's put it to 10. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay, I can't really show you. Oh, maybe I can. As a matter of fact, maybe here. Oh yeah, you see, there. Okay, so you see, those parts broke apart last time. Like, you know, it's going to fall basically. But because now these are soft constraints, they're not falling. They are held again, held with each other because of the glue, the soft glue, which we're not breaking at this point. Because remember, this only belongs to the glue, okay, not the soft. So let's move on. There you go. So there it is. Okay, so now if I say, right, I want to put in another one, but this time I want to break this soft constraint. Okay, let's just say angle and distance are both 0, and guess what will happen? We will not see that behavior anymore because both of them are 0. It's just going to break. Okay. Okay, there you go. So it just falls. It doesn't hold anymore. Okay, so that is the fancy bit. So let's put in an angle threshold of 0.1, sorry, and distance threshold of 0.1 as well. I think that's more than enough to be fair. This is if you want the bending behavior, you know, slight bending behavior. You don't need to, but just fancy stuff, I suppose. But having too much of this can cause issues because you'll see some stuff dangling. Yeah. And you know, yeah, you don't want to do that. Okay, so maybe some of these constraints are not broken for certain parts, and the piece will be like dangling down here. Like these two are now connected together because of the soft constraint here. Okay, oh, those things are going crazy up there. So that's what that is. Okay, good. So if I now do a little flip book Yeah, I don't know, 96. If it works. Oh yeah, there it is. You can actually feel the soft constraint come into play here, as a matter of fact. I can feel it. Okay, but anyway, doesn't matter. Okay, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. Okay, now, although it does seem like we have lost the secondary fracture somehow, let's see if I'm right in saying that. Oh, no, it's happening up here. Oh yeah, there you go. It's happening down here. Okay, so that's all right, good. So hopefully that was helpful. You learned something. If it was helpful, give me a like, thumbs up, share, comment, subscribe. Until next time, see you. Bye.